Good morning, my friends. It occurred to me this morning that not only are we coming through the era of the pandemic, but we are also coming through a political era during which division, denial, and the power of self-justification has led us down some very dark alleys. And so as I thought about this, I realized that we are reconstructing and getting unstuck from not only one thing, but at least two. And in that getting unstuck, we are called to reconstruct meaning in our lives and to begin to align ourselves with that meaning that will correspond with our basic core values. Those values we talked about back in the compassion and forgiveness, step 3. So you may want to review that at some point, because the meaning that we construct in life comes directly out of those values that are central to us and the desire to live them out. And so in these steps in practice, we've talked about conscious relaxation, mindful awareness, compassion and forgiveness, skillful courage, and getting unstuck, transforming roadblocks into opportunities to know yourself more deeply and shift habit patterns that you no longer find useful. And today we turn to step 6, meaningful reconstruction. As with many other ancient practices and disciplines, mindfulness was never meant, really, to be a self-help tool, even though it has been utilized in that way across a number of disciplines. Rather, its original intent was to help us to connect with a deeper purpose in our hearts, our deeper sense of what gives our life meaning, and to allow us to notice our thinking patterns and our thoughts without judgment, without self-condemnation. Just notice. Acknowledge it, befriend it, and let it go, leaving us with a much wider space within our hearts and minds to reconstruct what is meaningful for us and will guide the next step forward. So let us be seated and settle into that familiar place, the chair where you come each day to sit mindfully, gratefully, gently, and willing to be more aware of your inner reactions to the life you're living right now. Mindfulness, remember, means being aware of the present moment without judgment. Without judgment. Often judgment comes with name-calling. He's an idiot. I'm a terrible friend. We treat them like they're self-defining and true, and they're just thoughts. So we accept them and let them go by. Meaning reconstruction requires coming out of our most deeply held values in a way that we can begin. Notice I said begin, not complete or determine the outcome. This is very important. That tyranny of not enoughness, which leads us every time, inevitably, to feeling hopelessly stuck, coupled with feelings of frustration, impatience, disappointment, sadness, and at times even resignation. If you have that thought, notice it. I notice the thought of not enough, and as you release it, imagine it floating downstream like a leaf until it's out of sight. Practice that right now. I can share with you that I have been repeatedly humbled in my life by this vexing habit of saying I'm not enough and feeling stuck. And I can assure you there is another way. And I will offer you the steps I have learned to mindfully move through this dead-end way of thinking. The first step would be to accept what is. Practicing acceptance is an active state of mindful awareness that moves us towards wise action. It is not the same as liking, agreeing with, or passively resigning ourselves to anything, or even making a decision about what I will choose next. For me, acceptance challenges us to stop complaining, acknowledge reality, let go of how I think things should be, and to begin to reflect on where it is that we are able to promote change, without attachment to thinking that we can overcome. We just start by having a willingness and a conscious intention to accept things as they are. And with mindfulness, the practice grows. Resistance and fighting are rarely the answer to any desire to move forward. And now that we're sitting in acceptance, the next thing is to connect with what we truly value, because our values are like a compass and they guide us, ways we want to behave in an ongoing basis. Values are here and now in the present. They never need to be justified. They often need to be prioritized. They're best held somewhat lightly, and they're freely chosen, supporting the dignity of all human beings, building a bridge in situations of dualism and disagreement, and loving in ways that are unselfish and generous are three of my deeply held values. What are some of your deeply felt core values? As we talked about in step 3, you can find core values also by looking at what it is underneath your anger or fear that you most strongly want to protect, because it is a core value. And with these 2 steps in our practice, we become ready to commit to some kind of values-based action, meaningful reconstruction. Ask yourself, while keeping your values in mind, what is the most sensible, the smallest, the most accessible move I can make right now to get closer to where I want to be? Think small steps about what you can contribute right now, today, tomorrow, or next week, to something that will begin to manifest the values that you hold most dear, and perhaps the ones that have been most damaged or diluted in your life in this past year of chaos. Richard Rohr speaks about this process as the fundamental process of our human nature and of our world, human and otherwise. He suggests that over and over the process is order, disorder, and reorder. Right now we are in great disorder. The former order has been changed and may even be gone in terms of access. And so we turn our minds to reorder. What is most important for you to contribute to right now that would make sure that a small part of your values are put out into the world today? What will you do today as you take this out with you, my friends? Namaste. Amen.